by hindrances, and you need to recognize them because they are the enemies of your samadhi, of your concentration. And if you don't, then they arises and become strong, then you can't get your concentration because they are the opposite. They are like the darkness, covers up your mind, and you have to recognize them. And they're hard to recognize, they're not easy to recognize, they come as camouflage. You think that they are good when they come. You think that they are good, as the saying goes. If it is so good, how could it be bad? So it can't be bad because it's so good. In other words, when you feel so good, when you feel so happy, so blissful, so it can't be bad, it must be good. So craving, craving consciousness, when it arises, it becomes like a camouflage. It's like covering a wolf in a sheep body, or a wolf in a sheep clothing. You find it as happiness, a lot of happiness, a lot of holy joy when craving arises in your mind, when you're able to see all those beautiful things that your eyes can see, color, shape, forms, when you can taste all the delicious food, hear music, a very nice body sensation, nice smell. So you think that they are good, of course, and you are happy. So sensual craving arises with pleasant feelings. It's a joyful feeling, worldly happiness. And as long as they are not leading to very strong cleaning, when they arise, they enjoy all the senses, they pass away. So you don't feel them very affecting your stability of mind. You feel alright, you feel happy. The whole day you don't contact with objects that are unpleasant. Nobody scold you, nobody disturb you, and you are healthy, and nothing bad happen. And it's alright, it's a nice day, it's a happy day. Nothing bad happened, and you eat what you want to eat, and you're very happy with seeing television and visiting good friends, have a few good laughs, and go for some nice food, and you go home. So it is quite alright as a layman that we do enjoy the senses. Is our good karma from the past that we enjoy senses. If you don't have good karma, if you haven't done good things, wholesome things in the past, in this life or in the past life, we will not be able to have the enjoyment of pleasant objects that arises in our mind. We don't see the pain, we only see the happiness. When craving arises in our mind, we don't see suffering at all, because it does not arises with pain, it arises with joy and equanimity, neutral feelings. Subtle joy, sometimes we can't feel too much of it. We don't feel it very much if the object is not so pleasant, just slightly. So it arises, it passes away. It arises and passes away. Things that we see, as long as it's not ugly, it's pleasant, color, form, shape, arises and passes away. And yet, this craving consciousness arises in our mind, and it is not dangerous in the sense that it will take us to woeful state if we still maintain our precepts. We still meditate, we still clean our mind, keep our mind calm, peaceful, and we don't get a very strong and wholesome mind. And so when there is rebirth, as we climb the spiritual ladder, as we go perhaps to a higher realm, maybe a deva realm, and we still practice, born as a human again, with better condition. And so we still climb the ladder of spiritual life in future life. So it does not really take us to woeful state unless we only enjoy things in this life without replenishing, without doing wholesome action. Then when you use up the wholesome karma, the resultant, you use it up, then you fall to the lower rank. So there is a danger that if one constantly have a lot of pleasure, his life is very good, in his present life is very good. The danger of falling is when he does not replenish, when he does not do wholesome deeds, wholesome actions to replenish, to build up the reservoir of wholesome karma. Then after enjoying in this life, when one falls to the lower world. The lower world, animals world, Petas world, ghost world, asuras world, demon world. Of course, animal world, hell world. Human worlds are supposed to be good worlds, 6 deva worlds, and 20 Brahma worlds. So they are higher rank for those who meditate and gain absorption. So there's craving with upeka, equanimity feeling. So when you're very happy, you need to look into your mind. You're very happy now. So what? Is it wholesome feeling, wholesome happiness, or is it craving happiness? The craving happiness does not lead to does not develop spiritual concentration. Only when you have the spiritual happiness, spiritual joy arises, not of craving, but the happiness of wholesomeness, like doing dharma, like keeping precepts, like meditation, like calmness of mind, or listening to Dhamma talks. And this joy, happiness, when it arises and when it is developed, you maintain that. So it leads to deeper and deeper happiness, spiritual happiness, and develop concentration. So in meditation too, we develop concentration because it is necessary. Concentration leads to peace of mind, calmness, and things are revealed. Reality becomes like a flower, it opens up. You can see reality, see nature unfolding. You see clearly 3 characteristics of the life, of this world, of phenomena. What is this equanimity? Craving, but neutral feeling. It does not give pleasure, but it's craving. So it also arises, and it is hard to detect because it is neutral feeling. So normally we just let it pass, arises in our mind, and we let it pass because it does not irritate, it doesn't make us unhappy, right? It just arises with neutral, but it's a craving mind. And so, example like a person having an old car, and so it is his car, yes, it is his car. He recognizes it's my car, but it doesn't give him much happiness when he looks at it. It doesn't give him a lot of joy, but it's neutral feeling, but it's my car, he owns it, it's my car. And objects that are not very pleasant object, beautiful objects, so, like tasting, for example. Somebody give you some food and you taste it, and you eat it anyway. It's given to you, you eat it, you taste it, swallow it, but it doesn't give much joy. Unless it's very tasty, and you say, oh, that's that's nice, that's very tasty food. Then the craving arises with happiness, enjoyment. Otherwise, it is craving, but it is neutral feelings. It is neutral, right? And we've gone through them. And so craving comes to be. So craving comes to be when the mind is unrestrained. How does it come to be? When it is not controlled. When it just merely lets pleasant objects condition the mind. Whatever is pleasant. If the mind is not restrained, then craving arises. At once, you want the object, you say, oh, that's nice, I want to have it. If you see a beautiful new model car and you have the money and you say, okay, I like to buy it, maybe next month, or things like that, or shoes, or dresses, or food, or whatever item it is, or watches, or things like that. When you see it, it's pleasant, and the mind wants it. So that's how craving comes to be, without restraint. So when the conditions are present, craving arises. You must have a contact. If there's no contact, then craving does not arise. Contact. If you don't see it, you don't hear it, you don't smell it, you don't taste it, so craving, consciousness do not arise. It arises when craving roots become strong. When you always keep registering in your mind, I want it, I want it. I want this thing, I want this thing. Or I want to go to Sweden, or I want to go to America, I want to go to Australia, I want to go to New Zealand, go there for a holiday, I want to go to see my children, to see my friend, or just to enjoy some food, or some even go very far to London, just to attend the opera. They like opera singing, so every year they will book in advance to go there. So when it is constantly registered in the mind, I want it, I must have it, I need it, then craving consciousness arises. It keeps on coming into your mind. Hey, yes, next month I'm going. I must check my ticket, I must check my passport. So how do craving consciousness arises? When it is rooted, when it is established and becomes strong. Right? But it is no problem, isn't it? If you have the money and if you want to go to England to attend the opera, it's no problem, isn't it? Because you're not harming anybody, you're not hurting anybody. In fact, you make people happy. You make the people selling air ticket very happy. You make your tour agent very happy. And of course, you make the opera house in London very happy. You got business, you got a lot of people coming overseas. And of course you make yourself happy, so everybody is happy. So what is wrong with everybody being happy? There's nothing wrong. Makes the world go round, right? That's what people want, happiness. So it's not wrong actually, unless as you do something bad to enjoy. You need to steal money to enjoy, or you borrow money to enjoy without returning back, right? Or you do something bad, illegal trade, so they have money to enjoy. So otherwise, as a layman, as long as we keep our precepts, we can enjoy. Because if the mind has no enjoyment, then become very depressed, deprived, feel very angry, remorseful, become very disturbed, very restless. Because the mind is always grasping for pleasure, for happiness. And if we can't get that, then it goes into negative mental states. So therefore, it is necessary to enjoy if there is no spiritual happiness. But once one develops spiritual happiness in meditation, in peace and calmness, then there's less requirement for sensual enjoyment. Because when peace arises in the mind, there arises contentment. When the mind is contented, is in contentment, it does not crave for things. When you are very peaceful and contented, you might don't crave to switch on television. In fact, you don't want to see television, it disturbs you. I'm very peaceful, very happy. If somebody tune the radio very loud, they get very disturbed. Say, could you please tune it down? Because the mind don't go for the enjoyment of the music. So what type of music is that? Is it nice? Do I enjoy this music? No, it does not go for that. So in other words, spiritual joy. When you build up the spiritual joy, then the worldly happiness is, you require less and less of the senses happiness. Cling to it. Because the cause of suffering is the essential craving, is the craving. Essential craving for the rebirth, in the heavenly world, craving for non-existent. Because it's the cause of suffering. Craving arises and you can't have what you want. And so, the way you want it. Sometimes you say, when I talk, you listen. But if they don't listen, you get angry. Because you want them to listen. You want to listen. You want them to do what you want them to do. And so, if they don't do what you want to do, sometimes you tell your children, you listen to me, you don't do that. But if they do that, you get very angry. Right? Because you want them to listen to you. So, in other words, when you can't get what you want, then ill will arises in your mind. And ill will is unpleasant feeling. Unpleasant feeling is suffering. What is suffering? Suffering is dukkha. What is dukkha? Dukkha is feeling hard to bear, painful feeling. So, suffering arises because of that craving, that you want the things the way you want it to be. If you can't have the things you want it to be, then you get furious, get annoyed, get angry, get frustrated. That is suffering. So, craving is the cause of suffering. But craving itself, when it arises, you don't see suffering. You see only pleasure, see happiness, and you see neutral feeling. So that is why we don't see suffering in craving. So we go from life to life, birth after birth. We never get out of the circle of samsara, birth and death, because we can't recognize, because we don't recognize that craving, the basic, fundamental craving is the cause of suffering. Even if you know it, you can't stop it. Because you need practice, you need a lot of practice, you need a lot of wisdom to see things as they are. You need to practice a lot of detachment. You look at it and you say, okay, I can't eat this. If I eat this, I'm going to get allergy, I'm going to get stomach pain. So, detach. So, away. Don't eat. Because this is not good for my body. Then only you could let go. When you let go, then the body don't have the stomach ache, don't have the allergy. Why? Because you're able to detach, to let go. And why do you let go? Because you know. So that's the important point in our meditation, in our practice, is the knowing and the detachment, able to detach. But if you know and you can't detach, still there is pain. And you say, how could I know and not detach? Because your knowing is not deep, it is not strong. Therefore, you can't detach. Now, that's the problem. The problem is the insight knowledge. They are not deep enough to see clearly. Sampajjana, clear comprehension. Only when you see clearly that this is suffering, then you let go. But we don't see clearly as suffering. Even we don't recognize it when craving arises in our mind. Don't recognize it. We feel it. We cling to it. We want more of it. We want to prolong our enjoyment because it is so pleasant feelings. Because the feeling is so pleasant. So it's nature for the mind to enjoy pleasant feeling because we are born like that. We are born like that. It's nature. We are born like that. We are born to enjoy pleasant objects. We are born like that. We are born to reject unpleasant objects. When people scold us, we reject. We don't want to listen. We shout back. We scream back. It is nature. We reject unpleasant food, things we don't like. We like sweet, they give us sour. We don't like to eat it because it's sour or it's saltish. We like the sweet and they give us salty things to eat. We don't like it, so we reject. We get angry. And we say, hey, you know how to cook or not? Why is so saltish one? You better please take it back. Give me another plate. We reject it. We don't want it. Because it is the nature. We are born like that. So, when wrong views become strong, craving arises in our mind. When strong views becomes very strong. This lady, a lady who has a very hard life, they married and the husband passed away and she has so many kids, half a dozen. So she works day and night, look after the kids and got to earn money and support them. And so she has a lot of suffering mentally. Sometimes the children also become naughty. So physically she works so hard and so body pain affects the mind. So the mind becomes a lot of pain, a lot of regrets, a lot of sadness. And she would always, when she see me, she would say that, why can't I die? Why don't I die? Why God don't take me? So she keep praying that God will take her away from this suffering. So she believes that she believes very strongly that when she dies, she'll be born in heaven, and so that she would escape all the suffering that she encountered in the human world. It's a very sad life, of course, and so the mind crave to die, might crave to live, the might crave to die, the might crave for sense enjoyment. So these are the three directions of craving. They give rise to rebirth. Give rise to rebirth and death, the samsara. So she constantly have this craving arises in the mind, and every time she's a Christian and she see me, she'll give me new Bible. Say, hey, Dad, I give you the Bible. I said, but you have given me so many Bible already. So I was young that time, and of course I was a Christian. I was young and I was a Christian. So I said, yeah, I don't need another Bible. Never mind, I say, you take it. Craving arises due to views. So a lot of these views brings up this craving in the mind. The views that life is we live only once, and so make the best use of life, and we don't know people think, people don't know us think. So we enjoy ourselves to the fullest. Just enjoy. Life is so short, and get what you can get in this life. There is no more. And so that type of views brings up this grieving mind. Time is short. I must go and enjoy. I must go and dance. I must go this. I must go here, go there. I must enjoy as much as I can. So views. So craving arises with views. When we talk about views, we talk about wrong views. Wrong views. But they are craving without views. Just craving, that's all. Just want to crave to eat certain food. There's no view. But craving with views are heavy. If it is wrong views, if it's harm people, it's hurt people, you think that killing in the name of God, you'll be reborn in heaven. So that is heavy by killing humans. Humans who are having precepts, and so that would be a very heavy karma. So that brings about a lot of suffering. So craving have views. Ill will has no views. Illwill is just angry, it's just sad, just hatred. It has no views. It's not connected to views. That when I die, I will not be born anymore. Or when I die, I will be born eternally in heaven. It's a view. We call it a view, a concept. Illwill has no concept. It just arises with unpleasant feeling. That's all. When you get angry, that is suffering. And how does that? Why do you get angry? Because of craving. Because you can't get what you want. Or you get what you don't want. You get what you don't want. You don't want a lot of things. You don't want to grow old. You don't want to age. You don't want to get sick. You don't want to decay. You don't want to die. But we get it anyway, because it's life. Because it's the nature. It comes in a package. We don't want it. It comes. We don't like people to criticize us, to scold us. We don't want to be poor. We say, why must I be poor? We don't have as much money as anybody else, and even richer. So, ill will, hatred arises because of the craving factor. If there's no craving factor, there'll be no ill will. You don't crave for things. You won't get angry. We crave. And just remember that whenever you have unpleasant feeling, it is unwholesome. It's unwholesome. When you have unpleasant feeling in the mind, anger, frustration, sadness, remorse, then you note suffering. You're suffering now, in this present moment, you're suffering now. And also, you're creating more suffering for the future because of unwholesomeness in the mind, creating more unwholesomeness for the future. So you must note it. Don't let it prolong. Don't let it build up, become strong. Don't let it keep on registering into the mind and take root. Once it takes root, then it keeps on conditioning the arising of ill will in your mind. Because you build up the unpleasant objects in your mind, and when this object arises in your mind, and it will arise because it is strong, it has taken root, because you keep on thinking about it and prolong it and register it, and when it keep on arising, you build up more present karma. The registering is past, but when it arises and you catch hold of it, now you're creating fresh karma, new karma again. In other words, you are experiencing new suffering again. The suffering never ends and builds up and becomes more and more because it keeps coming back and you keep holding it and you keep registering it, thinking about it, build it up, and it goes round and round and round. That's what samsara is. That's what suffering is. When you don't know how to let go, when you keep building up suffering. So you build it up in your mind. It is all in the mind. You build it up. When objects come into contact with your senses, it is unpleasant and you get ill will in your mind. But when you practice meditation and you have wisdom and you have detachment and you keep on rising, falling, you learn to detach. The object don't stick into the mind. When you touch the mind knows and disappear. It let go. And unpleasant object becomes weaker and weaker. And when it touches the mind by way of seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, it does not hurt the mind because of the mindfulness, detachment that you have practiced. Become habitual. Moment object touches the mind, become habitual. Become habitual. Alobha, cetasika, detachment mind arises. You let go. You look and you let go. Look, you let go. So attachment consciousness do not stay long. Do not build up in the mind. And therefore do not cause suffering. Cause the arising of pain. When concentration is weak, you know why it arises? Because concentration suppresses defilements. When the mind is concentrated, when there is concentration and calmness, craving consciousness cannot arise. It suppresses them. The function of consciousness is suppression of defilement. It functions that way. When light is, there can never be darkness because it suppresses darkness. It brightens up the whole room. There's no space for darkness to come in because that's the function of light. And you ask why? There's no why. It's just the function. It's just when light is. There's no darkness. That's all. So we call it niyamas. Niyamas, phenomena. The phenomena of the mind. The phenomena of a seed. If you plant durian seed, you get durian tree. You cannot get banana tree. Phenomena of season, spring, summer, autumn, winter. Phenomena of Dhamma. The 10 paramis for the arising of the Buddha. Phenomena. The Noble Eightfold Path leads to the freedom from suffering, from birth and death. Dhammanu. It is Dhamma, niyamas. It is phenomena. It is not created by anybody. It is not made by anybody. It is suchness, nature. So they are called niyamas. And I ask the question, how do humans come about if it is not created by God? And Buddha say, karma niyamas. The niyamas. It's a niyamas. Cause and effect is a niyamas. When you do good, you get good. You do bad, you get bad. It's a phenomena. You do good, you can't get bad. Neither do you do bad, you can't get good. It's a niyamas, alright? Absence of mindfulness, of course. When mindfulness is not present, then there is craving consciousness, illwill consciousness, there's ignorance consciousness. And what is ignorant consciousness? Always arising with neutral feeling. So it is very hard to detect the ignorance arising in your mind compared to the neutral feeling of the craving, because they're both neutral feeling. Unless you're very clear in your mindfulness, unless you understand the characteristics of what is this ignorance, then you know craving is different. Craving is different. It is just craving for the object, and the feeling that arising is neutral. But ignorance is just neutral feeling, but it's just sloper. It's just like you can't think. It's just like it's blurred. It's just like nothing comes into your head. Of course, it comes to your head, but you're not aware of it. It's just neutral. But if you stay long enough, then it produces boredom. Illwill arises. So the equanimity, neutral feeling of the unwholesome mind, if we stay long enough, it produces loneliness. It produces, when you have nothing excitement, nothing that you enjoy in your mind, and you always have this, equanimity feeling, and you feel lonely. It arises by itself. Because that's the phenomena of the mind. It just goes into loneliness. Pachayas, unwholesome mind, conditioning, the arising of unwholesome mind, just condition. It produces that loneliness. Then you say, I'm very lonely, I got to see some friends, I got to go and eat some nice food, I got to travel to outstation to see my brothers or sister I haven't seen for so long. Or I want to go overseas to visit my son or my daughters. They didn't come back this year. Oh, it is that loneliness because of boredom, because the mind do not have excitement, enjoyment. Get bored and get loneliness. So these are Dhammanupassana, the fourth foundation of mindfulness. It goes deeper than just watching mind, rising, disappearing, what type of mind. It goes deeper than just watching element rising, falling, rising, falling. It goes deeper than just watching the 3 types of feelings. But feeling is very important. Now we go into a lot of talks on the feelings. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Because we are talking about craving that produces worldly happiness. He knows the discarding of it. He knows the discarding of and arisen craving mind that comes to be. So knows the discarding. Do you know the discarding when craving arises in your mind? You know how it is discarded? So you need to observe that it's discarded. When you let go, craving is not there. And you know, because you let go, so craving dies away. Or because when you are mindful, you are just watching object, you are noting, it dies away because it does not keep on registering and build up the force. So it dies away. That's the nature of mindfulness. Just by being mindful, craving dies away. So a meditator knows why craving consciousness passes away by mindfulness, by letting go. So what is needed? Needed a for great effort. Alright? When you replace the mind, then you let go. Sometimes you find hard to let go. So you replace the mind with effort. Effort to bring in different thoughts, new objects, different objects to the mind. Or to distract, just to avoid, stay away from the objects. So the four great efforts is important. When you apply, you know that craving mind ceases. You know, what did I do? Oh, I use effort. I use effort. I do not want to think so much about these things. I just think about other things. I do other things. Like people want to quarrel with you, you just walk away. So why is that? Anger do not arises in your mind because you walk away. Effort. Of course, it is easy to stand and shout and scream. That's what people say. You say, "Oh, you walk away." People think you're soft. People think you have no courage. You're weak. Let them think what they want. Let them think what you want. Important is you watch your own mind. Right? Just walk away. If you want, you just stand and listen. Watch your mind. Detachment. Then illwill do not arises in your mind. When you are not attached to it. Why? I never do like that. Why you say I do like that? Attachment to your ego. Your own self, your ego. I never do like that. Why you say I do like that? Why he keeps calling me and say I do like that? I never do it. Why? Ego. Because I never do it. Why is called me? Ego. When you watch it, ego arises. The stronger the ego, the more you feel the pain. You note it. Away. Right? So, he knows the discarded essential craving do not arises in future. So you have to build up your experience, and as you practice, you know that some of these things that you let go in your mind, it does not arises anymore in your mind. Once you let it go, you don't bother about it. It do not harm or hurt your mind anymore. Right? So there are the 8 types of craving consciousness. Remember that, and there are those that arises with wrong views, and they are strong. Condition pulls out the great consciousness, and you have the feelings that are pleasant and neutral. The easiest to recognize is painful feeling, whether it's in the mind or in the body. In the body, painful feeling, but the mind may not be pain, right? So, if it is the body, pain, it is different. You have to watch the mind. Whether the mind pains, the mind is sad, angry, frustrated, disappointed, that is the pain arises in the mind. Suffering, mental pain, mental suffering, that is ill will. You must remember that. So whenever you have this unpleasant feeling in the mind, it's unwholesome. Do something about it. Don't let it carry on. Don't let it build up. Disturb your peace of mind. You won't get samadhi when you have a lot of pain in your mind. You have a lot of dissatisfaction, a lot of hatred, anger. You will not have peace of mind. You can't develop concentration. Alright? So, I suppose I will stop here.